Welcome to the Veterans and Their History podcast. The heart of this podcast is focused upon the lives and stories of men and women as we recognize the service and sacrifices military veterans, whether current, past, or maybe even forgotten. We will look at various world historical events, predominantly military history, as we hope to pique your interest and expand your knowledge, all while we have a chat just between you and me. In this episode, we're going to be continuing our conversation with Matt Xoom Callahan.
It's going.
Okay, so we're back. All right, so we're talking with the CEO of Playnet Incorporated, Matt Xoom Callahan. Where we left off here is that we talked a little bit about the fundraiser. So let me get back to a key point, is that how are those funds used or not used in the fundraiser?
So every fundraiser, we outline to our players, this is what you're funding. And we're very focused on that. We believe that our word is our bond. And if there's anything that we do that we try to embody the most of, it is that we over-deliver and under-promise. You know, as it relates to these fundraisers, we've done important things, such as getting new hardware to beef up old machines. When I first took over the project, we had legacy year 2000 machines running critical operations without any backup system that was functional. We also published pictures of what the work we did before and after of this spaghetti-like situation of wires flying out of the previous co-location in Dallas and then moving that co-location up to Portland, Oregon, where in fact we've now cut down thousands of dollars that were required for us to operate per month, providing us a lesser service. It's just because it was an old legacy setup. We've also invested into artists, developers, artwork, also, sound packs and other various content items that we said we would do. So I could keep going on, but ultimately those funds, as they're acquired, are put off to the side and put into a position to where they fulfill the obligation that we've set forth. Now, I'm not aware of any technical situation where we haven't been able to deliver on with regards to these fundraisers, because by definition, those reach the maximum prioritization, given that the customers have laid down funds for them specifically. And then, of course, we're a recurring subscription-based game. That's the number one reason that we've been in business for 21 years now, and why it's essentially like a Patreon, but it's internal, and you also get a functional game. So as we start to march towards Unreal Engine and all that stuff, it's a perfect opportunity to subscribe to help support that. And all those funds go into our, not just our regular operation, because we do have ongoing costs, such as our co-location we just talked about, our ISP. We've replaced several hardware items that we didn't acquire fundraiser, stuff for. It happens. Things happen, including the people and personnel to manage those. So I hope that answers that.
Okay, very good. So it's not all about the Castle Callahan that's up there on the hill.
No, absolutely. No, there's no castle. Maybe when 2.0 is really successful, but no, by no means are we a super flush company, and our priority is to take care of the many people that we can who are putting in their effort and time into our project and company. That's where those funds will be prioritized, so that we can not only reward them, but also have a more stable company, so that we can have more people contributing on a more frequent basis. So people are our company, not just the people who work on it, but the community. The community is literally the people, whether it's yourself as a former community member or myself as a former community member. The community is the reason why this game is what it is. And, they literally have taken over, in a sense, the game's future. The fact that you and I are sitting here as community members first is proof of that.
Well, this really kind of gives me a good opportunity to kind of segue into something else, is that a lot of people don't realize how large our team is, in that we are on 3 different continents, multiple time zones that encompasses, international, multiple languages, which I always think is pretty neat. But so tell us a little bit about, without too much detail here, but a little bit about that organization, and then, I think that people who don't know you or the leadership team there, how do you? I think that some people maybe have the perception of, hey, you just make all the decisions in a vacuum, and I know that's not the case, but talk about how that occurs, and then maybe some of the key departments that you consult with, and then, I know that we have a number of meetings, but let's kind of peel back that layer of how CRS works a little bit so that they have an idea of why we do something and then how we do it.
So we have personnel on 4 continents and, yes, a variety of languages. We have essentially, I'd say, about 40-ish contributors. Some of those are paid assets. Some of those are, in fact, most of them are volunteer. And that's not my choice. That's not my goal. That's just the reality of where we're at. And there's this shared vision of an enthusiasm for what the project could be. We've always talked about internally how the game could have been so much more and how a series of decisions could have been different. I think now we have a very enthusiastic, very excited team. And beyond that, deeply as passionate as the next community member, or perhaps, I don't want to say more, but these are community members stepping up and actually doing the job. And that speaks volumes. So kudos to our team and, of course, the community who are supporting them. In terms of our organization and how decisions are made, when I first started as a team member at CRS, I was a volunteer high command recruitment officer. I had very little say, very little knowledge of what was going on. And as I grew into the assistant community manager role, I learned a little bit more. And then I went into the community management role as a paid asset, but also up in Portland, removed from the Bedford, Texas team. There was about 95% of communication I was not privy to. Now, granted, this was during a tumultuous time, so I guess that's to be expected. When I took over the project, I knew that, especially knowing that most people are remote and several of them volunteer, we have to communicate with them in a way that makes them feel welcome. And it's not even for me, that almost sounds like an obligation. It's not. It's an understanding that, having gone through that experience and multiples, working my way up has really helped me understand that what the needs are for and what the expectations are for members of our organization and even our community. I don't seem to know it all, and this is how decisions are made. I'm that guy who will propose an idea and have a discussion about it. The idea could come from the forums. It could come from somebody on Discord or a conversation in game or wherever. The point is we try to take in the best customer ideas that we see, or the ones that we understand from a game design point of view. We need to try and implement this. But there's this resounding, discussion that takes place internally, unless it's super obvious and globally, yeah, that makes total sense. But there's equal representation internally for those who might be part of the Allied community or the Axis community. Our vision is we're here to serve the whole thing as best we can. And so we have people who represent each one of those sides, if you will. And when we even come up with ideas, let's say I'm very passionate about an idea, and I think this is what I think, and we'll go up on the virtual whiteboard and we'll concept it out. If your idea or a community member's idea is better than mine, I will take that idea, even if I'm very passionate, I really want to see this happen. If it's better and you can prove it, I will take your idea every day of the week. And through that, I try to demonstrate to our team that egos are secondary to doing the right thing. We have to do the right thing. In terms of our organization and how it's laid out, we have a development team. We have a production team. Developers are doing the code. Producers are like the artists, or the production team is producers, artists, animators, things like that, technical art. We have a quality assurance team, and thank God for those guys, because they're testing all the changes and things that are happening. We have a community management team. That's the one you lead, of course, where those are customer facing. That's the glue and the bridge between developer and community. It's a very critical and very difficult role, I might add, because your business is dealing with people. And while we have an exceedingly well, I think, enthusiastic community that's deeply passionate, sometimes it can be very challenging. That because we're human, it's part of the deal. We have other teams as well, like business, marketing. They help us get the word out, and they're like the megaphone for a message that you need to send out. So that's sort of how the organization is. We have an operations team that's for managing colo and keeping the servers online. We have a game management team that helps with that. They run the campaign settings and intermission and getting people, keeping the game safe from, cheaters and all that stuff. Yeah, that's pretty much our organization. And all of this has a head in each department. And those are the people who are meeting here in this VR environment where all that community information, the bedrock of our game and community, is represented. I'd say pretty well, because we don't always agree on things, and that's okay. It's okay to not agree as long as we do so in a civil way and work towards the betterment of the game. And I believe that I'm confident that we do.
Very good. Okay. Thanks for explaining that. I know that's always been a kind of a key thing, because until, I see that organizational chart, I forget all the key pieces, because we are human, we have our lives, and that we don't always get a chance to interact every single week.
It's hard to keep up. And in fact, T-Man, our assistant game manager, was just telling me 2 days ago, like, hey, Xoom, we need to get another org chart, because now we have we have a new developer that just came on board. We have a new QA tester that, and so people are like, where are they falling? This thing is just, even I'm having a hard time keeping up, and this is what I do. It's a lot to take in, but it's also it's a good problem, because it means it's nice to see the hard work of things just blossoming on their own. Things are just happening, and I'm just trying to hang on to the ball, man. It's not easy.
Xoom, we're going to go ahead and end this episode here. We've got plenty more to talk about, but we're going to have that in future episodes. But I just wanted to say very quickly, I would be remiss if I didn't mention 2 key contributors. I am Brutus from the business and marketing team, with her artwork and helping me build the brand regarding for the podcast. And then the team lead for the business and marketing team, Chim, with his expertise in the post-production skill set, allow this podcast to be a little more on point technically. So certainly appreciate those 2 key contributors. Thank you for listening to this episode of Veterans and Their History. We are always looking to speak with veterans about their service, military family histories, compelling stories, books, films, or fascinating topics as it relates to veterans and history. If you think you have an idea for the podcast, or even some feedback or a question, drop me a line at text64@corneredrats.com. Until next time, I will be looking forward to our next chat, just between you and me.